All right, everybody. Good, good evening. If you are in India, if you are outside of India, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to our ScrollStack Academy's Masterclass. For those who are joining us for the first time, ScrollStack Academy's Masterclass essentially is a way for the community of creators to learn from their own. Right. So this is where we bring in a creator every other week to come and share their journey on how they create, what are their best practices, what works for them, and it's also a place where creators to ask questions and then get answers from that specific creator in terms of what their journey looks like and what are they curious about, etc., etc. For all the past ScrollStack Academy sessions, masterclass sessions, if you are interested in what we've covered so far, go to our YouTube channel. All the videos are there. These things happen every other week or at least once a month. But in the next few weeks, we have a few of them lined up almost on a weekly basis. So stay tuned to our social channels and you will get to know when they are happening and which creators are joining. So today we have Insia with us, who is going to share her journey of everything that she's done and how she goes about writing about travel and living that life and what her best practices are. So Insia has had a very interesting 30 plus years career where she's worked on films, she's worked in hospitality, she's worked in corporate communications, she's set up hotels and cafes and a lot of other things, right? So she's essentially lived the dream of somebody who wants to do it all. After having done all of that, she essentially now does a very interesting mix of she does a lot of travel writing, travel journalism, blogging. She's a very influential Instagram influencer, if that is too many influences in sort of like one thing. And then she also has a fantastic home on ScrollStack as well at insia.scrollstack.com, where she documents her travels and shares her travel guides to offbeat places or offbeat things in mainstream locations as well. So she has had a fantastic time doing all of this, and she's graciously agreed to join us and share how she does it all, what are her learnings, what are her best practices. So with that, can we bring Insia into the call? All
Hi,
right.
Ritesh.
Thank you, Insia. Hi. And then you should also say hi, everybody, because a bunch of folks are listening to us on
Yes, of
Facebook, Twitter,
course.
YouTube, all across the board. So, with that, Insia, I'm just going to hand it over to you. Please share what you think works best, whatever is on your mind, in your heart, and then and for everybody out there, we'll also make sure that we have at least 20 to 30 minutes at the end. For you guys to ask questions. So start lining up your questions, post your questions in comments wherever you guys are watching this, and then we'll make sure that we are getting these questions answered by Insia as well. So with that, Insia, over to you.
Thanks, Ritesh. And hi, everyone. Thank you for taking time out from your evening schedule or your morning schedule, depending on where you are, and joining me in my journey. So, a little background about who I am and what I do. My name is Insia, and I at the moment run a travel platform called India With Insia, which focuses on curated travel in India. I started my career about 13, 14 years ago, where I used to work with Sony PIX and handle their corporate communication in the first year of their being. I followed that up with working with Vinod Chopra Films as an assistant producer on films like Three Idiots and Ferrari Ki Sawaari, and then graduated to independent music. In the indie music scene, I really had nothing to do with music, thank God. I actually curated food and beverage for music festivals like the NH7 Weekender, and I used to tour with international artists, curating the hospitality riders. And I did that for a while when I realized that I wanted food and beverage to be at the heart of the festival, not just music. So I started a company called Small Fry and started curating pop-ups and food festivals across Bombay and eventually in Delhi and Bangalore. This was kind of the birth of food festivals and pop-up dining experiences in India. So I saw a lot of people come out there to show their talent in food and beverage. Met some excellent people who have now some really, really good restaurants. And after doing event after event for a long time, I wanted to do something which was slightly more grounded and not changing so much. So I moved to Jaipur to set up a hotel called 28 Koti and follow that up with another hotel called the Jory, both boutique luxury stays. And after that stint and when COVID hit, I decided to move back home, which was Bombay and now eventually Goa, to look at maybe a new avenue of hospitality. And that's when I think I had a light bulb moment. But light bulb moment sounds actually really good, but I'll tell you what honestly happened. I was thinking about Indian travel a lot because when I was setting up the boutique hotels, I used to choose boutique hotels to stay at when I traveled in India, just to see what was there out there in the industry. And whilst doing that, I met some excellent hoteliers, some great entrepreneurs. And I think that was all just churning in my mind while I was sitting at home wondering what's going to happen to travel and hospitality. And this was in 2020 when the first wave had hit us. So I think towards the end of that, I wanted to put all this information somewhere. I wanted people to know that there are some wonderful places that you can stay at in India. We always think when we go abroad, we always book Airbnbs and we book boutique hotels and bed and breakfasts, but we never really consider those in India because we're not sure of maybe hygiene standards or policies. And so because I traveled to so many of these hotels, I was able to shortlist some really nice stays, and I wanted to put all of that onto one platform. And one night I had a dream, and in my dream I dreamt of this name called India With Insia. I know this sounds really filmy, and it's not my filmy background that's bringing this to the forefront, but it truly happened. I woke up in the morning with that name. I literally got out from bed, went to my laptop, put that into a logo font, bought the website domain, and got that going. So that's how India With Insia was born. A little bit about the platform. I feel like I wanted to be very honest about what I said and what I wrote. I felt like I was not out there to review places or share my comments or my personal opinion, but it was a little more about putting the right kind of content out there, be it boutique hotels or unique destinations or regional cuisine or underground experiences, the four primary buckets that I do my work in. And so I sort of created 3 filters on the basis of which I wanted to create that content. So it was trust, authenticity, and consistency. And you will see that on my page as well. The first being trust. I feel like when you take the little onus to write about a place or an experience and put it out there, there are a lot of people out there who trust you, who believe that what you're sharing is honest and true. And if you're not able to do that, then it's misleading. And then, you go into that category where we see a lot of, we're all facing some flack in that category, where we say, oh, influencers are unreal and they are not honest and they just do paid stuff or free stuff. So I think it's really important that you're able to create trust with your audience. Doing a lot of background research, reference checks, calling people, especially when you're going to a new destination. I think that helps in getting the right kind of information. And that leads to my second point of authenticity. All of us get a lot of opportunities to, visit places. People are really kind to invite us to stay at places. But it's very important to be authentic. So for example, when I said that there are 4 content buckets that I work in, I try to be as authentic as possible when it comes to those buckets. So if there is anything when it comes to beauty or fashion or stuff like that, I try to stay away from it unless and until it has an element of any of these 4 categories. People will always want to send you free stuff, and it's wonderful and it's very kind for brands to do that. But I also think it's really important that you say yes only to things that are relevant to you, not just for the free stuff, but just to make sure that when you're putting it out there, your word is authentic. And the third area would be consistency. I think there are so many new destinations, so many new places, so many restaurants. But consistency is not something that everyone is able to achieve. And I think that applies to the content as well. So when I'm recommending a place, a restaurant to eat, I try to do as many references as possible. So I will eat there, and if I've had a good meal, I try to chat with some friends who've been there to see, if at least 3 or 4 out of 5 are good experiences, then I know that that place is consistent and I can recommend that. So and I try to implement that in my content as well. I try to write as consistently as possible, and fortunately I have a ScrollStack team that makes sure that I'm writing even when I'm slacking. So I think these are the 3 things that I have based all my content on. Like I said, I work in 4 unique content buckets, and that kind of helps me to narrow down on the information I want to put out. What happens is that in travel, you can get really carried away and you can talk about anything and everything. Suddenly you can do listicles, you can do reviews, you can do area maps. There are so many things you can do, but if you narrow it down, then people are able to pinpoint why they are coming to you. So I think that's really important. Again, because of COVID, I realized that Indian travel was going to open up and it was going to boom, and that's something that everyone predicted, and that's what happened. Drivecations, going to visiting Indian destinations, Gulmarg was the new Switzerland. It's really important that you're able to still pick unique destinations. I'll give you an example of that. Uttarakhand, obviously, the hills had become a really popular destination to go to this year, and I feel like the Kumaon region, which is the northeast of Uttarakhand, is a very popular region. The Kumaon has areas like Sitla and Mukteshwar and Kumaon itself, where there are some fantastic boutique hotels and experiences that you can have. And in the past couple of years, that's gained a lot of popularity. Whereas the northwest of Uttarakhand has been relatively low key. I think I would say areas like Haridwar and Rishikesh and all these places have been very popular for religious reasons. But there is also a very unique subculture of spirituality and great food. And I was able to experience that. So you will see a ScrollStack guide that I have of slow travel across Uttarakhand, the Garhwal Tehri region, and you can do Haridwar and Devprayag and Mussoorie and Landor, and you can experience a whole new side to it. So I feel like picking a unique destination really helps. Otherwise, we're going to cause over tourism in certain places, which is really not good for our economy and for those destinations. Along with that, boutique stays, unique stays, I think this is something that all of us are hearing and choosing. And I think it's a pretty, I think there are some pretty good properties out there. Obviously, you can choose these based on the amenities that they provide. Some online information, real photos by real people that have been put up online, not reviews as much, but just real photos. And I think one sort of criteria that I find really important is to see where they are listed. So there are some platforms like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Tablet Hotels, iEscape, small boutique hotels. I think these are platforms that really tightly curate the kind of properties they want. They also have a lot of luxe properties. So I think where you're searching for a unique stay and sort of picking that to do content around that or to actually just visit, I think that really matters. The third category is regional cuisine. Indian cuisine is just like, it's like you take all of Europe and you take every country in Europe. India is just like that. India in itself has like multiple, I would like to say, countries, and every country has its own. It has its own cuisine, its own flavor, and in every country there is its own region. So that's the same thing with the Indian states. And I think the best way to find Indian regional cuisine is to travel with locals. There are plenty of companies that do walking tours, culinary tours. I highly recommend those, so that you can experience the real food of the city as compared to just looking up the best restaurants. I mean, you should do that as well. But I think a good balance of showing smaller places, hole in the wall places that people don't know about, I think that's quite interesting content. And the last category is underground experiences. I feel like there are so many subcultures, layers and layers in different cities that you can experience. If you're an adventure junkie, you can find quarry diving and going kayaking in the mangroves. If you're somebody who likes to eat out, there are some very interesting bespoke speakeasy bar tours that you can do. So I think if you can categorize your content, then you're able to collate the right kind of information for your audience. I'll just share some basics, as a content creator in the travel space, just some basic things that you require when you're doing, when you're traveling and creating content. One is a good photographer. If you have somebody who can travel with you, who kind of has an eye for an emotion in your photo as compared to just a picture, I think that really helps. Another thing would be find your narrative and your voice in your writing. So when you're writing a piece, make sure that all your content is a certain narrative. I like to write very casual with little quirky anecdotes here and there. I feel like light-hearted reading is my kind of writing. So you should find your narrative and tone when you're writing. Being candid is really important, and I'm sure you're seeing that while I'm going. But it's important that you are candid in your content, be it photos, videos, writing. Don't make it look staged. Don't make it look like you are everything is properly staged and photoshopped and there's a background symmetrical. I feel like it just looks unrealistic, and then nobody believes that place is actually, or you look actually like that. So try to keep it as candid as possible. Avoid all those touch-ups and those filters as much as you can. And factual information is great for people who are coming to you for travel advice. So about the weather, safe areas for women to travel, what kind of clothing you should wear to be respectful in the places that you're going to, and just I think some basic stuff about if you have some dietary restrictions, what are the kind of places that you can go to, or is that city really friendly that way, vegetarian friendly or vegan friendly. I think if you're factual in your information, people relate to you a lot more and they come back to your questions, and it's nice to engage with people who trust you and are going to travel on the basis of what you have to say. I feel like there is so much content out there. Every day Instagram is putting out new ways of shooting reels, and there is new data on and new algorithms. And honestly, I'm learning as I go. I don't know a lot about it, but I always try to take something new, but keep it to my style still. Like I try to take a new element and incorporate it into my style, but I don't try to deviate from what my style truly is. Otherwise, then you start looking all over the place. So keep your style true and incorporate new elements, be it new formats to shoot or new, transitions, but keep it real. So yeah, that's me and a lot of talking, but I'm very happy to answer all questions. Ritesh, I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
That's because I forgot to unmute myself. Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing all of those tips and tricks and your process with everybody. Everyone who's listening, please start sending your questions wherever you are listening as comments, and then we'll make sure that We are picking your questions as we see them, and we will ask. So while folks are getting warmed up, Insia, I've got a few questions for you
Yes.
based on what you talked about, right? So the first question is, you lastly touched on that Instagram is launching new ways for people to do videos, and this like YouTube is full of travel videos, etc. Right, which I feel sometimes might be the easier option to do as you are traveling, right? Because it's sort of like more in the moment, you can create content along the way, whereas you've chosen to do it the hard way, which is you write about it, right? And then you
Yeah.
also don't do this like small little write-ups, but you actually take the time and effort and put the work in it, right? So like, did you consider videos? What made you choose between one and the other?
So I use Instagram as a marketing tool for content. I don't think that's the primary avenue for content for me. I want to be able to put down the right kind of information, and that's why I think with ScrollStack that's been really convenient. I've been able to put my guides through, and it gives you all the information. Instagram is just a glimpse. It's a marketing activity to put that forward. So I feel like that's the biggest difference between the two for me.
Hmm. Got it. Yeah. And I see that you also run your own website as well, right? Like the indiawithinsia.com as well. You sort of like, you essentially cross post the content where it's like longer form content. It's sort of like the repository of content. So I think, see, one of the other things, advantages of having social media as a marketing tool and all of your content, long form content in another place is the social media by nature is ephemeral, which means it goes away, and if it's out of sight, out of mind, right? This way, it's actually like you are, bringing people to a home. They have a place to remember to go, right? Like next time when they want to travel, they actually don't have to search through their feed, but they can just go to the website or your scroll stack and say, hey, this is where I read it, let me go back and see what has happened as
Yeah,
well.
and it's
So
been kind of easy, right? Like because from there they can just bookmark it and download the PDF and save it on their phones and stuff like that. So I feel like it gets really convenient for people to be able to access content, which is, like you said, more consistently available on a certain platform as compared to just free flowing.
got it. We have a lot of people who actually write, so the way I see, right, is travel writing today in India, or at least this might be my own bubble, but most of it is in English, right? Do you
Yes.
have, tips and tricks or, advice for people who don't want to do it in English, but actually want to do it in language, right? Or is that something that you've seen? Has that worked? Do you have any, examples that you can share, or in general as well? Like, what do you recommend people who want to write in language?
I feel like bilingual is the way forward, honestly.
Hmm.
And I really think that I want to work strongly on my Hindi skills to start some content in Hindi language. I think it's beautiful. I'm also working on my Urdu skills and hoping that I could do some content in Urdu because I think it would just sound much nicer. So yeah, for sure. I think bilingual is the way forward. I have these friends, Sarang and uh, Paula. Both of them run a platform called Bhadipa, and Bhadipa is hardcore Marathi content. But if you look at their content, it's fantastic. It's bilingual. They do a lot of interesting content, and sometimes I think that we look at vernacular as not cool, but I think vernacular is the way forward, and I think this is something that we should learn from European countries, right? Like if you travel to France or Spain or Italy, English is the second language, and they will look down upon you if you don't speak Italian or French or Spanish. I feel like we need to start taking pride in speaking in our mother tongue, which is Hindi, and build more content in that space.
Got it. And do you have so the folks who run this Marathi platform called, what is it called? Madiba. What is it called? Sorry again.
It's called Bhadipa, Bhadipa.
Bhadiba. Got it. So like, what works for them? What do they do well that you think other people could actually replicate and go down that path?
I feel like both of them are just cool. They're like people like us, they're like all of us who just love to travel and eat. And that, for me, that's the definition of cool, not about wearing fancy brands or about dressing a certain way or looking a certain way. It's just about the things we love that make us cool, that we honestly love. And I feel like they love what they do. So they are they put out their content in a very casual and authentic fashion. They don't, dress it up and make it flowery. And I feel like that really works for them.
Got it. Authenticity seems to be the sort of key underlying factor here, with like what you talked about being authentic as well, and these guys as well. All right, we've got some questions coming up
Yeah.
in the feed as well. One person asked the perennial question that plagues all creators, not just travel creators, but they're asking,
Yeah.
like, for me, content creation is not the problem, but finding ways to earn from it is, so like, how have you,
Yeah.
seen that work? I also had a question written down, which is, like, you do this out of passion, but you've also successfully managed to make it into a profession as well, right? So I think any tips or tricks that you have, or the process that you followed, and I know it's hard, right? So I think, like, just that your journey on that, and just your advice for people would be fantastic.
Yeah. I think that you need to start somewhere, and the aim should be to build the content. Again, trust, authenticity, consistency. Build content first. It's not like you write something and you're going to get paid to do it. You start building content. You start garnering trust. You start gathering a tribe of people who will trust what you have to say. On the basis of that, a lot of brands today are looking at micro influencers. So they're not looking at people with 30, 40,000 followers or a million followers. They're looking at people who are creating extremely focused content for a very focused audience, and they want to start reaching out to these smaller audiences. So instead of doing the one influencer of 1 million or 2 million followers, brands are looking at 30 or 40 influencers who have smaller following but are speaking to different audiences. So if you're able to create content that caters to a single focused audience, then it really kind of helps for brands to recognize you. Also, just be shameless, build an idea and pitch it to a brand. This is what happened to me. I had an idea and I literally emailed every brand manager that I knew with that idea who fit into that. And that's how the Jeep campaign happened. That's how I did the Konkan Coast with Jeep. It was a random text sent from my Instagram handle. I just feel like if, again, you have a true following, not all that bot followers and all, you have a true following, your word is honest and focused, brands will certainly catch on to that. And also now I think with ScrollStack and the paid, pay for what you write, I think that is such a great start. It shows that you're an actual writer, that it's not just a passion thing that you do.
Got it. Yeah, and it's so great to hear that brands are actually looking for people who have smaller but real following, and it's not just the numbers. I think that I think it's music to a lot of people. Because that you have a really strong set of people who have built up their following, but it's not necessarily in hundreds of thousands or millions, but it is very valuable, right? And again, like, this is where we've also built the platform with the same understanding that you don't need millions of followers to actually for them to be meaningful, right? Even a handful of them, as long as they're passionate about what you do, is meaningful for sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take another question. So Bhavin is asking, how much time does a new travel vlogger give to YouTube? I know you don't do video blogs, but if you have any sort of if you have
Well,
an answer for it.
I mean, Bhavin, I'm not using YouTube yet as a format, so I don't think I would be the right person to give that advice. But I think that to build any kind of travel content, you need time. Now, that time is totally dependent on the kind of content you want to do, right? Whatever platform you're using, I think YouTube, because it's such a heavy video focused platform, it's really important that you're shooting sharp content, that you're taking the time to get the right kind of setting, look. Video can't be shot in a hurry. Photos, you can still take multiple photos and edit and choose something. But a video, you need to focus, you need to dedicate time, and editing is a very, very key to video. So I would say that video takes longer than photo, and YouTube takes longer than any other platform. So you'll have to dedicate time depending on the kind of content you want to shoot.
Got it. All right. So Karnika has a very interesting question. She's asking that there's a lot of plagiarism when it comes to travel content. We often see big media brands copy paste content from bloggers and create listicles. How do you deal with this?
I'll tell you something. You know that I have a daytime job, a full daytime job. I work with, a brand with Great State Aleworks as a strategist, and India With Insia is a parallel job profile for me, right? And I've realized that there will always be somebody copying your work or stealing stuff from you. The only thing is that between these two jobs, I just don't have the time to chase these people. So I just let people do what they do. I've seen people copy paste and take stuff and all, but over time, again, they will be able to take one thing or two things and put it into their feed. But people come to you because overall, repetitively, consistently, your content is good. So I don't think you should worry about these things. Please feel free to call them out. I don't think you should hold back on that if necessary. And I've seen a lot of brands do that. Fortunately, I've not been in that position. But just recently, some of us were having a conversation about the listicles that we see, and how rubbish they are. But that's it's just that when you don't do research, your listicles are not going to be authentic. They're not gonna be real places. They're just gonna be the coolest sounding names from multiple places put together, and then it just doesn't fit into one format. Then you're talking about all kind of places under one listicle, and nobody really wants to refer to that. So doesn't really work.
Got it. Excellent. Yeah, don't pay attention essentially, right? So makes sense. Yeah, call them out. But I think that's fair, right? Like, absolutely call them out, but you can't chase them, and waste time. Even if this is you have time, it's not worth it because it's not going to help.
No, not at all.
Yeah, got it. All right. So, Wander a Mile seems to be another travel, person is asking the question, multiple people want to know, how do we approach brands, right? You mentioned that if you have ideas, approach the brands. I know you mentioned that you had pinged them on Instagram. Are there any other ways that people who don't have the connections can also approach brands?
Yeah. I've realized that LinkedIn is a great place to find brands. So you can just literally go onto LinkedIn, search for a brand. You'll see the people that work under the brand, find a brand manager, send a message out. I feel how you position your opening message is important. So to be really, I think, focused on your message in a way that you believe in it, that you're not trying to pitch something, but you feel like this is a great idea and you see the synergy between the brand. I think how you pitch it is important. I think LinkedIn and Instagram are great ways to do it. I've also done this for jobs. When I was when I was moving from Sony PIX and I was looking for jobs, I literally emailed every production house, copy pasted their email address from their websites and just emailed it, and that's how Vinod Chopra Films happened. So I feel, don't feel shy and don't have an ego saying how can I, or will it look, is it going to be embarrassing? Don't. Just, you want something, just go do it, and it something will come back to you in return.
Got it. Yeah, and I think this is consistent with what we've seen in the creator economy as well, which is one consistent theme across creators who are successful in the long run is that they hustle hard, and in every aspect of it, right? So whether that's reaching out to the brands or making sure that they're growing their following in the genuine way, or they're hustling for content, but they're hustling hard and they're making sure that it's not easy, it's not fast, but it takes a lot of work, but it happens, right? And you've got to stay on it. So
yeah, absolutely. In fact, I can't believe I forgot to mention hustle, because I think that's the basis of any content creator's life. So you're absolutely right. I think hustling is important. I'm sorry, I'm just going to go back to the basics that I was talking about, because there was a very important point that I forgot to mention. I think when you're out there and you want to you want to build content and you want to travel and all of these things, everything comes with a lot of effort. You have to chase people, and you have to push people, and you have to create the constant nudge to get things done. But if it is something that you truly love, and if it's something that you feel is just not something that you want to do temporarily and then move on, if it's something you want to consistently do, then you have to make sure that you're dedicating time to it, that you're dedicating your brain space to it. It can't be something, say, hey, this looks good, I can just go and stay here and write something about it. I think it's important that you dedicate time and effort to it, and then you hustle.
Got it. Understood. Thank you, Insia. Gaurav, the question that you're asking, which is how to earn from travel blogging, we just covered it. So, what I would recommend is after this session is over, definitely go back and watch that part of it. I think between at the sort of like the 25 to 35-minute mark, just watch that, and it's sort of like covered in between there. So, you'll have your answer. Then we're not going to make Insia repeat all of it. All right. So, Jayraj is asking, what are the fundamental features any content must have to be productive? So I think if I can paraphrase the question, it's essentially like how can the content be more effective, and then it actually be productive for people who are, consuming it. So what makes it most useful, essentially, I think is what Jairaj is asking.
I feel your content should be factual. I think that is the best way to connect with an audience. Most of the people that follow me always come back to me with really specific questions on travel, saying what is a good time of the year to go? Is this safe for solo women travelers? What kind of clothes should I carry if I'm going in a certain time of the year? So keep your content factual. We're all out there to share our free advice and opinions and reviews on everything, but honestly we're all of us are doing that, so I don't think that becomes like a fundamental feature. I would say giving out really productive information is the key to good content.
Got it. And I think there's a related question here that Karnika is asking, which is, almost every other post in your social media is about vacations, favorite restaurants. Everybody's a reviewer on social media, essentially, is what she's saying, right? So, like, how do you differentiate yourself? And then I'll actually tack on another question to that, which is because everybody is posting about travel, right? The discovery of good content from crappy content becomes difficult, right? So how do you also make sure that you're using social media effectively to stand out and to make sure that your content is being discovered as well?
I think, again, using Instagram as a marketing tool for your content is really important, which means that you need to make your content look really good, right? Your videos need to look crisp, good sound quality, good picture quality. Your photos need to uh, they need to represent an emotion. It just can't be, oh, the photos of certain dishes or photos of certain places. I think it has to be an emotion, or maybe a photo of you in a certain place on how you felt there. And if that's captured in a photo, I think that you're able to package your content well. And anything that's packaged well is an eye catcher. So I think that helps you kind of like, move away from the clutter. And people who put in effort in packaging, I would like to believe, also put in some effort in the product. And then you're not just a reviewer, then you're somebody who's actually experienced the product. And, so yeah, I would say that would be it.
Got it. Excellent. I have a question about sort of the content strategy that you have, right? So as I mentioned earlier, you have a scroll stack as well as a website, right? So
Yes.
you're sort of like one of the few people I know who actually jumped in and got a website and all of that, which a lot of people tell us that that's the big thing for them, right? So how do you do your content strategy, which is what do you post where? How do you use each one of them, right? So how do you use your website? Do you use ScrollStack differently than your website? So I think that would also be useful for people to also understand.
Yeah. So I did something very simple when I had the first conversation with you about ScrollStack. I fused the both. I fused the two. I took my website, and every post on my website I write on my ScrollStack, which is linked to my website. So my website is just a showcase of every piece of information, content piece that is on ScrollStack, and that's been the easiest thing to do. I would have. I think would have actually not created a website if I had ScrollStack before I had set up the website. I think it's been, it's so super convenient. I think, and as a creative person and as a content writer, the least concerning things are these things that you don't want to put your time and effort in a website and domain and coding and search engines, and you don't want to do this. So I think that way ScrollStack makes life really easy. It's very easy to incorporate photos and videos and put things into paragraph them differently. And now there is I just saw that emailer on ScrollStack goods, so I'm super excited to explore that. So I feel like one platform is enough. I think India With Insia as a website is just a showcase of all the guides that I have on ScrollStack.
Got it. Excellent. And by the way, just we did not tell Insia to say these things. She's saying
Ritesh,
this
no, come
because
on, of course you did.
all right, excellent, excellent. No, good, good. No, thank you for the plug. And yeah, and everybody who's sort of like watching, if you haven't necessarily checked out ScrollStack yet, please check it out. As Insha mentioned, if you don't already have a website, we actually make it very easy for you to not need one. It's very convenient for you to just start a ScrollStack. If you have a website already, it's actually good for your SEO and for everything else as well. Also, we'll always add more features, which means that you won't have to necessarily continue to work on your website, but you can use all the new features that become available. For example, we are going to launch Bitcoin payments next month, right? So that like you don't have to do all the work. People can pay you with all these valuable Bitcoins if they really want to as well, along with all the other things. And also on Saturday at 6:30, we are hosting another session for people who are new to ScrollStack. The link is wherever you are watching. So join us if you want to sort of like find out how can you use ScrollStack. You're a new creator on ScrollStack, so join us there as well. So with that, we'll bring the conversation back to travel writing and travel blogging. I'm just going to go through the uh, questions here. Yeah, so there's a good question from again Wonder a Mile on. Um, these days, it's also possible to analyze how content performs, right? So you have stats and you have data, etc. as well. But how do you analyze why somebody didn't go for like a brand collab suggestion that you made, right? Or like how do you get feedback? Do you get feedback from brands? If you do, is it genuine? Is it useful? I think that's sort of like the gist of the question here.
So this completely depends. It's very subjective to the brand and the brand manager sitting behind that desk. Sometimes it's a template copy paste on why they can't work with you, but some people make the effort to say stuff like maybe your content is not for their audience, or maybe why don't you work on an idea that is more befitting their audience. You look at, they will share links with the kind of work they've done in the past. I can give you an example of the brand campaign that I just did with Jeep. Jeep has never worked with a travel influencer in the past. They've always worked in the automobile space, and I was like the first this, because I think the idea of two women driving down the Konkan coast and exploring a drivecation touched the right notes for Jeep at that point. Everybody was looking at drivecations. Jeep wanted to come across as a brand that is also very pro women travelers. The compass sort of talks about finding your inner compass as a brand. So that way, I think we found the right fit. I also think, I also think that there are brands that might think it's a good fit, but may not want to take that leap, because it's a bit too edgy for them. And that is also fair. So it totally depends on a brand. And I don't think you should build your content as per brands. You should build your content as per what you believe. And eventually you will find that right brand to work with.
Excellent. All right. So, by the way, for folks who want to follow along Insia's work, we are also posting her ScrollStack Instagram as well as website in the links as well. So, please go and check out all the amazing work that she does as well. So, all right. So, let's see other questions as they have come in. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah. So, using mixed media, right? So I think like you do a combination of sort of video, photo, etc., etc. You sort of like throw in Instagram as well. Have you ever thought about sort of like moving beyond sort of like mixed content to actually like so the next stage, right, for you, like from content to, does it mean that you can start your own travel consultancy? Does it mean that you like, what do you migrate to, right? Like let's say somebody has reached
Yeah.
this stage and a bunch
Yeah.
of people might have, right? What is next? How do you think about that? What have other people done?
Um, I feel I'm very clear about the next steps. I know exactly what I want to do, and I want to do an OTT show. I'm really clear about that. I think India with Insia has the potential to be a web series, because again, Indian travel has so much to offer, and I mean, there is a lot of content out there. Obviously, travel shows are by the dozen, but I think that because I work in these 4 unique categories, I will be able to showcase India through a millennial's bird eye view, and I think that sort of becomes my segregator. So that is happening somewhere in my head now. Soon has to take form. Yeah.
Exciting times. Excellent. All right. So with that, I think we have answered all the questions in here. So if no questions come in the next few seconds, thank you once again for your time and sharing everything that you've done so far and everything you've learned with the community. I think everybody appreciates it. And then as just for folks who are listening and watching, follow Insia's work. Take advantage of it. It's free for now, but it won't be for long. So make sure that you're taking advantage of it while you can, and also make sure that you pay for good content as you come across it as well. For all the folks who are curious about ScrollStack or who are new to ScrollStack, join us on Saturday. And with that, Insia, thank you once again. Everybody have a great week.
Thank you. Thanks, Ritesh, the whole team at ScrollStack, and for everyone who tuned in. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thanks. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.